Hey folks, really excited to talk to you today about Holy Paladin and where it's heading in 9.1. Before we get into the talent build, we're going to talk about some of the just hands down best covenant you can go with. It's Venthyr. If you're going to push top tier progression rating, that's got to be the covenant you're running with. If not, if you're a little more casual, Kyrian is the go to talent. If you want to recraft legendaries, you might as well start anything that you've crafted around your head, your shoulders, or chest slots. That's ultimately where you're going to get sockets of domination from the new raid. So start flipping your legendaries accordingly. Speaking of legendaries, Shockbearer is still the best legendary out there for Holy Pals. So recraft it, upgrade it, get it in on your leg slot, and make it a staple for the rest of the expansion. Um, Kyrian Paladins are seeing a little bit of a weird new ability with the Divine Resonance legendary that's coming through, and it's actually requiring players to manually target either friendlies or enemies to fire off the automatic Holy Shock that comes 5 seconds, that comes in 5 second intervals, which is a little weird. Um, Radiant Embers is the new mandatory craft for Venthyr Paladins, and it goes on your back. But don't invest any Soul Cinders, which is the new legendary currency, in upgrading to rank 5 or 6 until after you've upgraded Shock Barrier. Shock Barrier is the hands down way to go to. Holy Paladin definitely seen some pretty substantial nerfs in terms of damage, but none of our playstyle is going to really change very much. Theotar still your best soulbind for Venthyr. Pelagos is your best soulbind for Kyrian. Your stat priorities really were prioritizing haste above verse and then mast. Mast is about the same as crit, but really haste and verse are the two difference makers for us. We did take a pretty substantial nerf, not just to all of our damage, but also Dash and Hollow, Judgment, Hammer of Wrath. They've all been reduced by 10% compared to the 8% for the rest of the damaging abilities. So we're not intended to be this hybrid mass DPS slash a little bit of healing spec apparently. I miss Shakadin already. So Paladin's also seen some changes with Infusion of Light, now granting Holy Light to generate 1 holy power, or 2 if you use your Beacon of Light, which actually starts to get a little attractive. However, it doesn't stack with Inflorescence of the Sunwell. These changes, you're going to see really, Holy's not going to be the top of every meter, but it's still going to be competitive, and we're going to talk about this really soon. So before we talk about any more changes though, let's jump into the raid build you're looking at. Tier 1, Crusader's Might is the recommended way to go. It's still the superior holy power generator, and it's basically the most mana intensive option right now. So it really excels in raid encounters that have a high damage and almost 100% melee uptime to use Crusader Strike. So pretty hard to beat. Tier 2, you've got a couple choices, Judgment of Light or Holy Prism. So Judgment of Light is really mana efficient, and it outperforms basically the other talents on this row in a raid environment. But when you've got 2 Holy Pals, really the Paladin with the highest intellect should always have their stacks consumed first. Alternatively, Holy Prism is a strong contender to Judgment of Light, especially on add or cleave fights when there isn't always a persistent primary raid target. Tier 3, really, it just comes down to you. There's not a ton of use across the board. If you're into Mythic Plus, you can play with Blinding Light, but as far as rating goes, there's no material difference here one way or the other. Tier 4 for rating, Rule of Law is really attractive because it increases the strength and range of your healing abilities. It's primarily used with Light of Dawn to minimize the likelihood of wasting its healing output. Alternatively, if you need a little bit of additional mobility, Cavalier still has the odd use if you need to be really mobile all of a sudden. Tier 5 Divine Purpose is versatile, is a real versatile talent. It can proc at any of your 3 holy power spenders: Word of Glory, Light of Dawn, Shield of the Righteous over long raid encounters. So Divine Purpose will save a lot of mana, and it should be your go-to talent if your group hasn't planned their healing cooldowns around your Holy Avenger. Now, Tier 6, a little bit more of a conversation. It's kind of a bit of an all-in choice, but you're going to jump on Sanctify Wrath. If you see that there's maybe a different build here that requires a 25-second healing period, Awakening can work, or Avenging Crusader can work. They're all credible choices. Really, Awakening seems to be the ability that's driving the most throughput once you're lining it up with the Avenging Wrath uptime. And then you start to get more holy power generation and getting some more access to Hammer of Wrath. So it's really stacking quite well. Avenging Crusader, it's kind of underwhelming right now. Really high risk, high reward. I wouldn't recommend it. Tier 7, really the talent you want to go with here is Glimmer of Light. It's really a strong choice for raid healing. Not the Glimmer build that we once knew, but it didn't get nerfed into the ground as we previously had experienced it. Alternatively, Beacon of Faith can be used occasionally when you're looking to double up on some of the benefits that come with being a holy pal. So as far as legendaries are concerned, spoke about it earlier, Shock Barrier definitely has an incredible synergy with Divine Toll on the Kyrian side. It's really doesn't undermine the strength of the legendary whatsoever. Alternatively, Inflorescence of the Sunwell or Shadowbreaker, Dawn of the Sun, they both have some play with them. So you can take advantage of either of these. There's some really solid play there. In terms of what we're seeing, yeah, like really straightforward build, similar to what the guide is showing here. And then alternatively, if you're just new to the class, you want to prioritize intellect, then again, haste, mass, verse, critical strike. Take advantage of it. It's a ton of fun. If you're totally new to it, Sandalari Trolls are the most powerful race to pick as a Holy Pal. Blood Elves have a little bit of benefit as well as Torrents, just with their AoE stun. But if you're really, really old school and you've been tied to your Paladin for 14 years or so, you'll just keep them as a human for the time being. Alright folks, that's it for this guide and chat. Drop it down in the text. Let me know. What can I do better? What did I miss on? What are you going to do with your raid builds for 9.1? And good luck. Have a great night.